Hey there, my name is James Lee. Welcome to my channel 5149, where I talk business, politics, and society. Today we're going to be talking about unions and the tug of war between capital and labor, which capital is definitely winning big time because even the quote-unquote non-evil companies are against any type of unionization activity, which I'll get into more later. But first, for a little context, back in the 1960s, CEOs made roughly 20 times more than the typical worker. But compare that to today, CEOs are making on average 278 times more than the typical worker. In some instances, CEOs are making astronomically much higher salaries than that, 1,000, 2,000, even up to 6,000 times more than the average employee at some companies. Now, a lot of the villains here are well known. Historically, we've talked a lot about Walmart's exploitative labor practices, but nowadays, Amazon definitely takes the cake. Just going through a couple of the many atrocious acts they're responsible for, employees are getting maimed trying to make sure they hit their efficiency quota to prevent themselves from getting fired. Workers are committing suicide due to the stresses of the job. And Amazon was found to have been using illegal anti-union tactics by the NLRB, so workers have been unable to effectively organize against Amazon's exploitative practices. And that's just a tiny fraction of the horror stories coming out of Amazon. And, to be honest, I'm not even at all sure that they're concerned about all this negative coverage, because in the middle of all of that, Jeff Bezos, the company's executive chairman, took a joyride into space and then, quite possibly in the most tone-deaf and cringiest way possible, thanked Amazon employees and customers for paying for his flight to space. I'm sure the pride they felt for Bezos taking his joyride makes up for all the horrible stuff they're subjected to on a daily basis. But anyway, like I said, the Walmarts and the Amazons of the world are well-known villains already. But in reality, pretty much every single company, regardless of size, industry, or even political stance, is unfortunately anti-union. Take, for example, No Evil Foods, a company that makes plant-based meats. Plastered all over their websites are slogans like, "Our mission is people, planet, and animals. Let's be better humans. We are a company that welcomes all people." The two co-founders, Sarah Shadle and Mike Wolyansky, they certainly look and sound the part, saying, "We're family founded, majority women led, and purpose powered, and we're determined to bring people closer to the origins of their food while addressing issues like food insecurity, economic justice, and climate change." Let's take a second to break that down, because I think it's quite interesting, actually. And I think it's important to point out that in addition to the typical social causes that a progressive company usually supports, they explicitly mention economic justice, which is defined as a set of moral principles for building economic institutions, the ultimate goal of which is to create an opportunity for each person to create a sufficient material foundation upon which to have dignified, productive, and creative life beyond economics. Basically kind of a fancy way of saying that people should have the opportunity to make enough money to not worry about basic needs like food, shelter, and healthcare. So it's kind of surprising, maybe it's surprising, maybe it's not, that No Evil Foods are active union busters. They're pretending they're allies of leftist causes, says John Reynolds, an ex-employee of No Evil, who was among several workers that were fired shortly after helping lead organizing efforts to form a union among the company's workforce. "I think they're full of shit," says another ex-employee who was involved in the organizing drive and was recently fired. "It is a huge red flag when a company uses this much left-wing imagery and has a turnover rate as high as they do. The owners of this company are faking progressive values harder than they're faking meat," they added. I think that's potentially an apt characterization, because everything just seems so contrived and faked, at least to me. I mean, they post on social media about BLM, racism, and loving people. Yet, in a fantastic piece of reporting from the American Prospect, which I will link in the description below because I think it's worth a read, David Dayen described that No Evil Foods, armed with a union-busting playbook, committed psychological warfare on their employees to turn them against collective bargaining. As you can see, companies large and small are 100% united on this front. And so because of that dynamic, they've been able to slowly erode the power of labor, and through their chummy relationship with politicians, rewrite more and more rules to benefit capital, thus preventing lower and middle income Americans from achieving the economic justice they claim to care so much about. What I'm observing is that regardless of what values a particular company espouses, whether it be No Evil Foods promising to be better humans, or Oatly, another food company that I've talked about in the past, promising sustainability, they exist within a framework that prioritizes corporate profits over human decency, meaning that their ultimate goal is really no different than that of Amazon or any other giant corporation. I mean, it's not necessarily that they disregard human decency completely, it's just that they care about it only so far as it doesn't impact corporate profits or the people at the top, the shareholders, the investors, the executives. That's why we see companies like Amazon naming arenas to show that they supposedly care so much about this planet rather than making any real policy changes to protect the health and well-being of their workers. That's why No Evil Foods will brand their products with revolutionary imagery, like calling their vegan chicken product Comrade Cluck, all the while busting unions and firing the employees who organized. My point is, regardless of whether you're a Walmart or a tiny progressive startup like No Evil Foods, a business will always prioritize capital, aka money. So if we desire, and this truly is a choice here, but if we desire a society where employees and workers of companies, large and small, are provided the protections necessary to guarantee a basic level of human decency, labor must organize in solidarity so they have the resources needed to take on capital. That's all for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I feel like because we talk so much about cultural differences in this country, there's very little awareness of the inequalities caused by capital's dominance over labor. So definitely curious about your thoughts here, so please comment below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, share this video with your friends and family. And if you want more, please subscribe. And also you can click on that notification bell icon if you want to be notified if you're inclined to do so. As always, thank you so much for your time, and I will see you next week.